The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. How many are your works, O Lord? In wisdom you made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. The more that we humans have learned about the vastness of the universe, the more unfathomable becomes our comprehension of whoever or whatever force made all of this. At the same time, the more we have learned about the intricacies of even the tiniest living things here on Earth, the more unfathomable becomes our comprehension of what incredible intelligence must have been behind the construction of it all. When I first heard about the discoveries made by the two Planck satellites, it started to bring all this together in my mind in a most inspiring and wonderful way. I would like to share something of that revelation through this video. Every attempt anyone has ever made to scientifically explain the vastness of the universe, which scientists say is actually expanding at the speed of light even now, just brings home to me the wonders of eternity. That place where God lives. That place which makes time and space as we know it almost insignificant by comparison. The scientists themselves acknowledge that despite the vastness and the incredible age of the universe, it still has boundaries. Neither is it eternal. There was a starting point, both in space and in time. Eternity, on the other hand, is a dimension that goes beyond the universe itself. The reality of eternity is unapproachable, even with the greatest scientific mind. So we have the heavens out there in the vastness of space, and we have the planet on which we live, Earth, with all of its creatures, right down to the tiniest one-celled plant or animal. What the Planck satellites discovered was that this amazing, ever-expanding universe actually revolves around an axis. And in the almost infinite number of places where that axis could have been, it just so happens to go precisely through the Earth's orbit around the Sun at 2 points, the winter and the summer solstices. In other words, all of creation, the universe, revolves around the Earth. We're not some insignificant speck of dust in the total chaos of the universe. We are, in fact, at the center of it all. What an amazing and profound revelation. The more we have learned about space, the more clear it has become that what exists here, on this one tiny speck in the universe, is absolutely unique, an amazingly complex and yet organized ecosystem to support all manner of biodiversity. Occasionally we hear about scientists saying that they hope to find a planet somewhere else in the universe with a few of the same chemicals that are needed here on Earth to construct living organisms. As though just having the chemicals that make up a high-quality watch is going to make other high-quality watches appear as well. Nevertheless, here on Earth, we not only see all the bits and pieces appearing in just the right amounts, but we see them put together in ways that all the smartest minds in the world have not yet been able to even begin to understand. Everywhere else in the universe, we see little more than sterile rocks and frozen gases. Earth is God's garden. That's becoming increasingly clear and ever more real as science progresses. The Planck satellite revelation about the axis of the universe just underlines it more than ever. It seems that the same God who created the vastness of the universe took a very special interest in this one little tiny speck of a planet, ironing out every minute detail of his creation, to not only create life, but to make life the most exciting, interesting, and enjoyable experience he could possibly make it for those of us he put here to inhabit this amazing garden. Providing entertainment and comfort for us goes so far as to include throwing all those galaxies and black holes out there across the universe just to give our scientists something to play around with whenever they start thinking they have it figured out. It was all done as adjuncts to God's number one project, which is this lovely little garden itself. He did not just create a source of heat in the sun and a way to clean salty and impure waters through clouds, but he put the two of them together in such a way as to create the most amazing sunsets, just for the sheer pleasure of making something so incredibly beautiful, to delight us and probably even to delight himself. He did not just create ways for plants to reproduce other plants, or for insects and birds to cross-pollinate the plants, but he did it in such a way as to make thousands of different, beautiful varieties of color and shape, which we call flowers. And in the process, he even made such wonderful smells as vanilla and cinnamon, gardenias and lilacs. Every one of our senses have been catered for at the same time that God has dealt with the life and death needs of thousands of species of very different and often very useful plants and animals. Some species work together symbiotically, each keeping the other alive or healthy. Plants and animals work together to provide oxygen for one and much-needed carbon dioxide for the other. All of it, right down to the tiniest detail, was worked out in advance. Some of it just waiting for us to discover it. Things like electromagnetic radiation, from which we get light, special sources of metal, glass, and nuclear energy, incredible cures for illnesses, including some chemicals which can even block out pain. He put it all out there for us to seek and find. Dare we say that he actually put it here for our enjoyment? This planet and all that is in it is his greatest achievement, an achievement for which the creator of the universe himself is most proud and for which he was willing to suffer and die. We, and the garden that we live in, are the apple of his eye, as the saying goes. But what have we done with it? The greatest scientists in the world are but one small step closer to understanding how it all works than what you and I are, the average high school educated Joes on the earth. Yet from that minuscule vantage point, many of those same scientists want us to believe they've discovered all of this happened without the need of any direction or guidance from an incomprehensible intelligence. All of it, they boast, happened by accident, and so they can actually prove that. And what is worse still, we believe them. Why do we believe them? Well, in very simple terms, we believe them because they wear lab coats. You know, those white jackets that scientists wear when working in their laboratories. Seriously, it has been shown repetitively through a very simple, very famous, and very well-controlled scientific experiment that the vast majority of people on this planet would literally kill someone else if a so-called scientist in a lab coat insisted that it was necessary. That doing so would be in the interest of science. The exact experiment which revealed that most shocking evidence is now outlawed. You cannot perform it ever, again, without prosecution from other scientists. Look it up. It's called the Milgram experiment. It so traumatized the people involved in it to learn that they were willing to actually electrocute another human being when instructed to do so by a scientist. It was so traumatic that the experiment has now been outlawed almost universally. But that's not really what I want to talk about. Our gullibility when it comes to scientists with an inflated opinion of themselves in matters of morality and religion is such a depressing subject. But let's think more about the loving and infinitely powerful God who made it all. Through science, real science, microscopes and telescopes and other similar apparatus, we have learned that the world has, in Bible terms, been fearfully and wonderfully made. While our planet is unimaginably small by comparison to the rest of the universe, the delicate intricacies of what exists in even one small newborn baby on this planet dwarfs the whole of the known universe in its complexity. All of God's most creative and wonderful abilities were obviously focused on this one little planet in order to give to us all that we have and experience right now. We have been given the potential to enjoy life in all its fullness, as Jesus put it. Surely when God looks down from wherever eternity is located and sees how casually we devour and waste the resources and how much contempt we show toward Him and all that He did to make all of this for us, His heart must break if His anger does not boil over. People stupidly convince themselves that such an infinite power will take no offense if we do all we can to destroy what He has made, and we top it off by spitting in His face in the process. How can we do that? And how can we convince ourselves that we'll get away with it? Sorry, it's not good enough to say there's no Creator, that there is no day of reckoning, that there is no higher power to which we must answer than that which is found in human politics. We're only kidding ourselves when we do that, like people did for thousands of years when they drank pure, clean water or breathed pure, clean air. The air and the water seemed limitless. They understandably assumed it would never run out, just because they could not comprehend such a thing. We have done the same thing today with fossil fuels, with timber, with the farmland, and with all the other resources of the world. God created His little garden with enough resources for all of us, but only if we learn to share and to use those resources wisely. But a runaway epidemic of greed changed all that. People became addicted to a totally useless, man-made commodity called money. We convinced ourselves that this thing called money would solve all of our problems, even if we had to destroy the world and waste its resources in order to get more of it. More of this ridiculous stuff we call money. You hear intelligent, educated, renowned politicians saying that a loss of high-paying jobs is a greater tragedy for the human race than a loss of a few rainforests. The same reasoning is there to justify tobacco companies, air pollution, destruction of the ozone layer, the use of more and more plastic bags, virtually anything, as long as it results in more money for the people who are supporting it. It'll all be justified on the basis of this addiction to jobs and money. Ironically, this is precisely the same reasoning that the world's worst criminals use for selling soul-destroying drugs, for human trafficking, for becoming hired assassins, or for producing snuff films. They convince themselves that they need the money that these horrific crimes will bring in, and so they make a decision to go with what most suits their financial expediencies. The revelation of Jesus Christ, the last book in the Bible, was written almost 2,000 years ago, long before anyone ever thought of the earth running out of resources. It predicts a day, sometime in the future, when money will take the form of a mark on the back of the right hand or on the forehead, without which people will not be able to buy or sell. We are within sight of that day right now, as the whole world races to see who can do away with cash the fastest, so we can all switch over to an electronic form of currency, one which will eventually be controlled by a tiny implant in the back of our right hand, or in the event of you having no hand, in your forehead. The revelation links this predicted change in the world economy with the return of Jesus to judge the earth. And the revelation says of that judgment, God will destroy those who destroyed the earth. Over all those centuries, we read right through that verse without giving it a thought. But now we stand on the brink. Millions of us are aware that we are approaching extinction through abuse of the environment and through wasting resources. Millions more are aware that we are within sight of implementing the mark, without which no one will be able to buy or sell. The day of reckoning is coming. The gardener is about to return to his garden. There are hints in Scripture that he may be forced to destroy it and start over. creating a new heaven and a new earth. For a handful of us, he promises that we will be able to move from this garden to the new one unharmed. But for the rest, there is a threat of eternal torment. I don't know exactly what that means, and I don't know what form it will take. But remember, we're talking about a creator who is bigger than the universe, a creator who is smart enough to have invented and put together every single atom and the construction of this earth and all that is in it, including mechanisms for many of his creations to reproduce themselves. We cannot even begin to imagine what unbelievable suffering that same creator is capable of inflicting on those blasphemous rebels who have ignored him and ignored his son all this time. Yes, maybe he loves us so much he'd let us all get away without suffering. Maybe he'll just let us drift quietly off to sleep at the end of a godless life, never to reawaken. That's what a lot of people are banking on. Total abuse for God throughout our life, and then not one moment of accountability in eternity. That has to be the most incredible, irrational optimism in history. We only have to look around the garden that we already have to know that our Creator does not have a problem with letting some people suffer, here and now, whether or not they had blasphemed him, before that day of reckoning. So, what makes us think that the real villains, the real rebels against his authority, are not going to have to answer for their behavior? Jesus told a parable about a man who owned a garden, a vineyard. He left it in the care of tenants, asking only that a portion of the profits be periodically given to his representatives. But the tenants assumed that he would never return. They could do as they chose. They even went so far as to kill the owner's son when the son was sent to collect the rent. And then Jesus asked, "When the Lord of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenants?" The religious leaders, somewhat shaken by what Jesus had said, answered, "Well, he will miserably destroy those wicked men." Of course, this earth, the only biosystem in the universe, is the greatest work of the creator of the universe, and we, the ones for whom he put it all together, we have spurned him. And I'm not just talking about atheists either. I'm not just talking about deluded scientists. I'm talking about the religious leaders, those who have pretended to have faith in the owner of the vineyard at the same time that they have rejected his son, the one whom he sent to show us how we can all have plenty if we'll just trust the owner of the garden to meet our needs, while we seek to build his kingdom of faith and love. God is asking each of us to let go of the ways of this world, to become poor in spirit, to commit ourselves to living lives of service to others, content with food and clothing. If you'd like to learn more about this world, you can write to me at the address shown on the screen. You can watch more of the videos on this channel, and you can just open a Bible, read about it in the first 4 books of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. See how Jesus and his followers lived in Bible times, and let's start living the same way ourselves today, okay? I look forward to hearing from you soon. Goodbye for now.